in the end, everybody wants to be happy. And I think by now most would have realized that just a material comfort is not enough, And at the same time, we see people who may have very little, considered certain definitions, but they are very happy and they live a very purposeful or meaningful life. So this is something that is within everybody's reach. And when I started doing some of the programs of the Art of Living, that's how I started my journey. Because I met Gurudev Sri Ravi Shankar, the founder of the Art of Living, in Amsterdam.
Where you were 16?
Yes, I was 16. So, and when I met him, it was a public talk in a big hall in Amsterdam. And somehow we came to know about that. It was a big banner. It says His Holiness Sri Ravi Shankar on human values. But that picture pulled me, The whole concept of, there is a spiritual master coming from India. So, somewhere I thought, okay, maybe this is someone who can really teach me these things. And when I heard him speak, and he conducted a small guided meditation also, for me that left a lasting impression, because his words were so simple, his language was very easy, everybody could understand. It was not very hi-fi or, but at the same time, through that very simple language, he was able to convey something very profound, which for me was a different level than any of those books I had been reading or the things I had come across. And when he guided us through a small guided meditation, that 20-25 minutes felt like just 2-3 minutes. So I only realized after, when he said, okay, you can open your eyes again, how was it? And I thought, we were just getting started. But then 20-25 minutes had passed. So I found my master. So for me, then it became very easy. I thought, okay, this is what I have been, or whom I have been looking for.
Namaste everyone, and a very happy Diwali and festive season to all of you. Like you can see, I'm dressed up in the festive spirit. But to be very honest, I like this attire. I like my kurta pajamas, and I host somebody who's accepted the kurta pajama as his outfit for life. Yes, we're talking about Swami Purnachaitanya. He's not just accepted that outfit, but also he's accepted a way of life that's been passed on to him, that's been bestowed upon to him by Sri Ravi Shankar ji, fondly known as Gurudev by Swami Purnachaitanya ji and the followers of the Art of Living Foundation. So Swamiji and I chat today on the podcast about a number of things, including the most important part, meditation. We speak about important practices that need to be ingrained, the hindrances that we feel in our pursuit of meditation, what meditation can bring to our lives, and how it can help us be more effective and take more informed decisions in an ever-changing world, which incidentally is the title of Swamiji's book as well. You can check it out in the description listed in this video as well. And we spoke about the book, but we also spoke about a number of things, including being guided by Swamiji to do a mini meditation, which has been one of the privileges that I've had in this journey of building the podcast. So without further ado, this is Swami Purnachaitanya ji, or the meaning of his name, which is so very beautiful. Somebody whose consciousness has evolved completely, and he shows why he's been given that name as well. So I absolutely adore this conversation. I absolutely adore the individual. Go ahead and listen to him and subscribe to the podcast while you do so. Swamiji, namaste. Thank you so much for taking the time. In fact, the viewers must be, and listeners in fact, and must be wondering, why am I dressed in a kurta? I have to tell them, this is not only an attempt to match your simplicity and the grace that you carry with your outer appearance, apart from all the inner values that you try and teach people, also how you present yourself brings a sense of calmness to everybody that's around you, everybody that learns from you. And I'm trying to sort of mirror that today. It's also Diwali. But I also feel, Swamiji, normalizing wearing the kurta is something that we need to do, because it's such a beautiful, simple yet elegant piece of outfit that is one of the multiple things that I think Indian culture has given us over the years.
Well, it makes me wonder, Sumedh, that what you normally wear. Like, what am I missing out on?
You're not missing out on a lot, actually. You're not.
But it's a pleasure to be here. I'm so happy to be here on the show. And yes, Diwali time, it's a very celebrative time, very auspicious time.
Absolutely.
And I think, even if you look at traditionally the wisdom of the sages of this ancient tradition of this continent, that they knew how to keep people's spirits up. So if you see, many of these festivals are there when, during the winter time, the darkest fortnight of the year, when everything becomes a little gloomy. Because we see that the same in the West, during winter time, people are a little bit more depressed. Yeah. Because if it's dark, you spend more time inside, less sunlight, or it's not such nice weather to go outside. Yeah. But then they have all these celebrations, like we have Diwali, that really give such a boost. It uplifts your spirit, some light in the darkness. Yeah. And I think that way it's quite apt for, of course, your show as well. Because, considering that it's all about making people aware about how to deal with their mind, manage their mind, and more of these things.
I think I would like to say thoughtful and mindful enough to say, the winter time is a time where it's not as bright outside, and therefore to try and bring celebration to people would go a long way to everybody. Yeah,
it's like an effective way of mind management and managing people's mental health, emotional health. And keeping the spirits up.
The only difference is that the manner in which it's celebrated has changed a little bit over the years. It used to be very simple and basic over the years. Now, we've added a lot of grandeur to events like Diwali, haven't we?
Yeah, that is there. I mean, but that is everything, I think. That way the world is changing, and it is. We need that skill to maintain the important values and the essence, but at the same time, we should be flexible also, because world is changing, lifestyle has changed. So it's all about finding that middle path. And I think over the years, over the ages also, we have seen this. If you see, there's so many great minds that have come, whether it is scientists or saints or sages. And sometimes it wasn't even so much about introducing something new, but much more so about rekindling or again making available that which was already there, but then it had to be repackaged for a different world or a different time.
That suits your description so very, very well, Swamiji. If I know with the humility that you have and how humble you are, you will never truly accept this, but I think the way we look at it from the outside, the personality that you are at this point of time, you've come to that stage, or you've developed it over the years where you've learned, or where you've come to this place where you've balanced it all, right? You realize that the world is moving in a certain direction. There are different ways of communication. People learn in different ways, and at the same time, you're imbibing these values that have been passed on to us via the Vedic traditions, and you're finding that middle ground of communication to people. How has that realization come to you?
Well, I mean, it's difficult to pinpoint in the sense that I guess even when I was young, I was fortunate to have a kind of upbringing where there was already some room, you can say, for that philosophical approach or spiritual inquiry. My parents both studied psychology, and I guess to some extent it also reflects their interest in knowing more about how the mind works.
Wonderful.
Or about how these things work. And both of them were actually introduced to meditation during their studies in the Netherlands. So they had a curiosity, they had a group of friends, and one of them came across this meditation program, which actually happened to be the meditation course of the TM organization that was founded by Maharishi Mahesh Yogi.
Yes.
So they came across this and they thought, okay, let us explore. They wanted to know more. So they had that, you can say, spiritual curiosity or inquiry. That interest was there. And my father was Dutch,
Yes.
proper, full 100%. My mom was half Dutch, half Indian.
Yes.
So I have some Indian roots. I'm that way 25% Punjabi. But then she grew up in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
Only the first few years she was in Delhi.
Yeah.
But then she came to the Netherlands and she grew up there. So she didn't speak any Hindi or anything. But of course, that some roots were there. But then, so during their studies, they started meditating and they liked it. So by the time I was born and my younger brother were born, they had decided that, okay, we would like to raise our children with some awareness. So we were raised as a vegetarian, which was those days quite unique. Of course, now we have plenty.
Yeah.
But those days it was still quite unusual in those places.
Yes.
And also, I remember that when we were very small, sometimes our parents used to meditate, not like as a rigorous routine, and half the time maybe we didn't even know because we were playing or we were not up. But I remember when I was 5 or 6 or so, once a week they say, okay, we'll meditate together. So it was a very playful process.
Wow.
We would sit like on a Sunday
What a
morning.
beautiful way to introduce a kid to meditation.
So so it was, for us, it was a very curious thing. Like I remember me and my brother, we would sit and we had our own meditation cushion. So, so my mom had made it. It had our name written on
beautiful.
it. So then we would sit and our parents would sit behind us. So then they said, okay, now for the next few minutes, you sit still, try to keep your eyes closed, don't move, and try not to think of anything. So as a child, it's
hardest thing
quite unusual. And then, of course, we were also quite naughty.
Yeah.
So after some time, you get bored, so you open one eye and then you see, is my brother meditating or not? And he will also open his eye and we'll be doing gestures. And then my father would find out somehow. So then he will suddenly from behind, there'll be one tap, like on your back, like, oh. And then again, you sit eyes closed and again, But then what happened is, over time, it kindles a certain interest. So, and then even growing up, I guess again also because the interest that my parents had in spirituality. So my father used to love movies like Star Wars and things like that. So we grew up with those things, and then that curiosity comes. And then when I was about 7, 8, I started practicing some martial arts. So I started learning judo. And then later, some other things were added: taekwondo, aikido, kung fu, wushu. I did different things. But the pull that I realized at some point towards those, you can say, Eastern things, Eastern traditions, was much more that aspect of learning how to manage or master your mind. So, when you progress in martial arts also, there are tournaments and things like that. But then I realized I didn't like the whole fighting thing, people trying to beat each other up, even if it was a competition. But still, that wasn't the main thing that interested me. It was more that aspect of a little bit of meditation or mastering your mind. And some of us, maybe you also would have seen some of these movies like The Karate Kid. And
Yes.
so then there's this old man, like Mr. Miyagi was there. Or if you see Kung Fu Panda, you have the old tortoise, Mr. Oogway. Yes. So this concept of, you have a master who has all that wisdom, they have the experience, and they have a way of transmitting that or kindling that. And then, the main character would come to a point where they would imbibe some of that wisdom, and then in even the most difficult situation, doesn't mean you don't get beaten up, but to be able to reach that point where you're so centered, you're so calm, and then that makes you successful. So for me, that was something that I would say that became stronger and stronger. I wanted to learn. Okay, you start reading different books, but then a book is not the same. So I thought, I wish I could find someone who can also teach me some of these things, because we've all had our challenges. Like when I was 11 or 12, my parents divorced, and then like so many different challenges we had. We never had a lot of money, so you see that life can throw all kinds of situations at you. But then how to still maintain a sense of calm, of composure, and not just that, how to still be happy or to be skillful or centered in those situations, or how to move through it skillfully. Because this is something that I realized we've never really learned. If you look at school also, we have been studying for so many years. People have gone through primary school, and then high school, maybe even college, university. Some people are very brave. They do a PhD also, or 2 PhDs.
Yeah.
But then we have never learned how the mind works. So even at school, I used to think, a teacher will tell us that, okay, pay attention, concentrate, because of course in class also you have fun.
Correct.
But then it's not that you don't want to concentrate. Like even when sitting and studying, we would think, for God's sake, let me focus.
Yeah.
I have to do this. But how to do it?
It's a
You may
skill.
feel terrible. You don't like thinking about an incident that happened, and even your friends may tell you, well, just drop it, chhod do. Just let it be. But then how to do it? And our mind, which includes our thoughts, our emotions, is such an intricate part of our life that wherever we go, whatever we do, however so-called successful we may be, unless we learn to master it or at least manage it, there is no guarantee that we will either be successful or we will be happy. And I think more than anything, the recent pandemic has taught or reminded people of this across the world, because I've had people come to me and to us that are considered very successful in so many fields, whether it be in their profession or financially or from a point of like a society or politics, and where people may strive their whole life to achieve something similar. But then these people were having the same problems. They were not able to sleep at night properly. They were feeling stressed or anxious or uneasy. So more than ever, I think it was just another confirmation for me also that it is so valuable to give people these tools, because in the end, everybody wants to be happy. And I think by now most would have realized that just a material comfort is not enough, And at the same time, we see people who may have very little, considered certain definitions, but they are very happy and they live a very purposeful or meaningful life. So this is something that is within everybody's reach. And when I realized, when I started doing some of the programs of the Art of Living, that's how I started my journey. Because I met Gurudev Sri Ravi Shankar, the founder of the Art of Living, in Amsterdam.
Where you were 16?
Yes, I was 16. So, and when I met him, it was a public talk in a big hall in Amsterdam. And somehow we came to know about that. It was a big banner. It says, His Holiness Sri Ravi Shankar on human values. But that picture pulled me, the whole concept of, there is a spiritual master coming from India. So, somewhere I thought, okay, maybe this is someone who can really teach me these things. And when I heard him speak, and he conducted a small guided meditation also, for me that left a lasting impression, because his words were so simple, his language was very easy, everybody could understand. It was not very hi-fi or, but at the same time, through that very simple language, he was able to convey something very profound, which for me was a different level than any of those books I had been reading or the things I had come across. And when he guided us through a small guided meditation, that 20-25 minutes felt like just 2-3 minutes.
Wow.
So I only realized after, when he said,
Wonderful.
okay, you can open your eyes again, how was it? And I thought, we were just getting started. But then 20-25 minutes had passed. So I found my master. So for me, then it became very easy. I thought, okay, this is what I have been, or whom I have been looking for. So alongside my studies and all the other stuff you do as a teenager, I started doing some of the programs that are offered by the organization. And when I would have a chance to meet him, he would come to Europe a few times a year. So sometimes in Germany, I would go and meet him for a program. Or then at some point I realized I would love to not just keep learning and deepening my knowledge and understanding of these techniques and this tradition, but I would also like to share it with people. Because I would see my peers, my friends at school, Holland is quite famous for things like marijuana also. So I remember sometimes my friends used to ask me that, we would go for an exam or something, and then they said, no, how come you're so chilled out? And they said, what did you smoke? I said, no. And they would get upset. They said, no, come on, man. We always offer you. You always say no. But now what? You're smoking on your own secretly.
Are you secretly doing something? Yeah.
Yeah. So I used to tell them, no, man, I just do some breathing techniques. And they're like, what breathing? Like what nonsense. But then slowly, people started realizing that, man, this guy is so much more chilled out. And of course, it would help me, whether it's with my studies or other things. So then they would ask me, one by one, they'll come quietly. That, can you also teach me some of that stuff, whatever you're doing? Because it seems to be working. And I realized even during my university days that for me, it became such a value addition where, simple things. Instead of studying for 3 hours, I could do the same thing in 1.5 hours, simply because my mind is more present. I sleep better, need less sleep, just being able to enjoy everything more. So, benefits are numerous, but I realize that it's something that I don't just want to keep for myself. I would like to share it. And even when I was young, I had this keen interest to do something that would also help other people. So I never had that dream that I said, okay, I want to have this kind of house or this kind of job. I was always thinking that, okay, what can I do to contribute in a bigger way?
A sense of purpose.
That seed was there, or maybe some past, some past impressions maybe. Because even as a small child, I remember I used to sometimes leave the home in the morning and just roam around the whole day in the neighborhood, or I'll go to the city and come back in the evening. And this whole idea of having very few belongings and just roaming around somehow really appealed to me. So maybe too many lives as a monk or something, but but that was something that really stuck with me. And I would have never guessed, but I did end up like that.
Would you say that you manifested meeting Sri Ravi Shankar, who now is your Gurudev? Because you say very beautifully that throughout your childhood, you kept envisioning or thinking about reaching to a place where, you would be guided by this, how do I say, this superior force or this enlightened being that would take you along with them on a path and then show you the direction. Do you think you manifested this meeting, or was it destined?
I don't think I can take that much credit that I could manifest something like that, but rather I think that
subconsciously manifest. Let's rather say that.
I mean, if we see even in the tradition, usually they mention that when the disciple is ready, appears. The master appears, and I think at the same time, if you see there are so many people that. If we take the example of my master, of Gurudev Sri Ravi Shankar, there are so many people that meet him. In that program also there were over 1,000 people, and in later years when he would come, the crowd would only increase. So I think it is also a matter of maybe being able to recognize or appreciate what is there, and then having that maybe the enthusiasm or the commitment or the wisdom or whatever it may be to catch that, to pursue it. Because let's be honest, there are so many people who meet him, and not everybody may end up doing a program. And I'm not saying everybody should, but I think, and I'm sure you have that same experience, that if you come across something that you were really looking for, either consciously or unconsciously, and if you're able to recognize that oh yes, this is something of value or something that I would really like to experience, then that's the first step. Many people may not at that point. Sometimes later, looking back, you think, oh, that is something I should have done. But to see it when it's there is one thing. And then the second step is also to act on it, of course. Because I think many people sometimes have an idea that, oh, I would love to do this, or I would love to go there, or I would like to explore this. But then not everybody does it. And looking back, and I feel very fortunate, very blessed that way, I have, in this aspect of my life, I think never really compromised, nor have I delayed much. When I would see an opportunity, I would go for it. So for me, this was, you can say, the top priority. Because at different points in life, I remember, I've had this experience where I'm a quick study. I pick up things quite fast. So whether it was my wushu, my kung fu practice, at some point I started learning some hacking, because I thought it's very interesting. So there were different things at life that I remember in life. What I remember that that point was really interesting for me. But then it would come to a point where I would say, okay, I know that if I go for this 100%, I can really excel at it. I know I have that confidence that I have the ability, the capacity. If I work hard, I can really excel. But then always there would be this thought that would pop up where I would feel, no, but this is not what I want to do in this life, what I want to do with my life. This is not why I have come now. There's something else. So, and then I would leave it. It's like, okay, so this is not something that I want to really go 100% full force. And when I met my master, then I thought, okay, this is something that I was looking for. And when I started practicing, then I realized, okay, yes, this is something that I would like to really go for. And then after becoming a trainer also, I realized that, okay, this is a platform that can accommodate all those things that I aspire to do. There are so many service projects, so I can serve people. There is a way to continue to deepen my knowledge of this tradition, whether it is about Ayurveda or mantras or meditation or any of these things that I found and I still find so fascinating. So that gave me a platform, and then I just went for it. And I'm still happily doing this since the last 15-20 years, and I continue to feel very grateful for the opportunities to serve and also to keep learning and experiencing new things.
I always feel that in spiritual practice and in spiritual teachings, it's always said that without the will of the Guru and without the grace of God, very few things are possible. But picking up from what you said, and this is something that I've always felt as well, that our job, the thing that we can do, what's in our hands, is bringing our awareness to a level where we can recognize grace when it comes to us. And that's what you did, and that's what you continue to do, right? And that applies to people in all aspects of life as well. To ensure that you recognize the opportunity when it comes to you, you need to have a certain awareness. You need to be tuned to a certain frequency. Is that accurate to say?
Yes, in one way, yes. And then, it's always tricky because it's a combination of both. One is, you can say, your self-effort, but one is also your good fortune or your merit or the blessings or what you want to call it.
Absolutely.
So they always go hand in hand. Because again, you may say that to have that interest, even to develop that keenness or put your effort, for that also that thought or that desire has to come. So it's both.
Very true. That's so very true. I want to, before we move on and talk about looking inward, which is your latest work in terms of your publication, I want to certainly get your thoughts on meditation and yoga. I'd like to understand, if this is not too personal for you to share, with regards to you endured something that a lot of people have gone through in these recent years, which is seeing your parents move apart, seeing your family, there's this idea of an ideal family, and then it disintegrates, in a way. During that time, were you still rooted in this feeling, or were you traumatized by it, and how did you react to it? Did your spiritual practice or your inclination at that time help you in a certain way?
You mean when my parents divorced?
Yes.
Well, I was still much younger, of course. I was about 12, I think. It was about the time I went to high school. Of course, we were not happy.
Yeah.
It was, of course, a very sad affair for me and my brother in a way, because as children, you love both your parents, and no child should have to choose. And it's not that we had to, in a sense. it was not like an ugly battle or over custody or something like that, dramatic.
Right.
But at the same time, yes, of course, for us, the whole concept was of course quite strange. And my father was moving out. He got into another relationship also. We were living with my mother, so we would see him, once in a while, but of course not frequently, because then, maybe once a week in the weekend, and then he moved to a place a little farther away. So then even commuting was sometimes a challenge. But at the same time, I remember that in the months and the years that followed, I saw that both of them were more happy. Like in the sense, my mother was much more happy, because obviously, for a few years it would have been already strained. We were not always aware. Of course, sometimes we saw that there were some arguments and all, but you never think much about that.
Correct.
But just seeing how, in a way, she blossomed in a different way. She could maybe be herself much more, have more space to do the things she really wanted to do, or just being out of that environment. At the same, my father also was able to, you can say, in a way, give shape to his life. So looking back, I'm in a way also grateful that they took that decision, rather than maybe say that, okay, even though we are both miserable and it's going to be a mess at home, let's just, for the sake of, stay together. So of course, in no way I want to say that it's a great thing to get divorced, but from my personal experience, that is something I learned along the way, that it did my mother a lot of good also. And to see her so happy, for me also as her child, of course, as her son, that gives me a lot of joy. So, and in that way, even again, because you mentioned this idea of getting separated, and in recent times, of course, this is all the more common maybe, or people have had these experiences. A few years ago also, I lost my mother. She got cancer. And I had the good fortune to be with her the last almost 2 months of her life. Initially, we didn't know that what was the problem. We didn't know it would get so serious. We had no idea, of course, that she was not going to be alive. But again, there, to add a little bit of masala, or maybe some magic to the story, my master, Gurudev Sri Ravi Shankar, actually sent me to the Netherlands, saying that you be there with your family, and then we will meet when I come back, which was going to be after 2 months. And normally I would go and visit them maybe once in 1.5 years, but never for that long, because I have so many responsibilities. And he actually told me 6 months earlier that you keep this time in your schedule free, because I have already made some plans for you. So, and then I asked him a few times, but he said, we'll talk later. So over those months, I still didn't figure out what the idea was. And when finally we were supposed to really sit and plan, because that time had come, then suddenly he said, why don't you go to the Netherlands? And I said, okay, well, anyway, my mom is not feeling so good, so it'll be nice. So he knew apparently, but I guess he couldn't tell me. But he sent me there for 2 months. And because I had planned nothing else, I was totally free. I was unoccupied. I had no work things to look into. And I spent that last 1.5, 2 months with her. And of course, along the way, we realized that she was very sick. She was not going to make it. And then finally, she didn't. And I was very close to her. But at the same time, looking back, I am so grateful that I had a chance to spend those moments with her, and to look after her in those last days also. And it, of course, in one way, it leaves a gap. It leaves an empty space where you say, things you want to share, or But at the same time, it showed me that, again, what we also know, of course, that of course life is temporary, in the sense this body has its expiry date. It may be sooner or later. But then again, because of maybe the knowledge and the experience I have, I realized that for me it was more of a shift towards the appreciation for the time we spent together, and the fact that I had a wonderful mother, and all that she was able to contribute to my life and what we shared, rather than maybe the lack of her not being around anymore, or maybe feeling that, oh, why she had to go, or maybe I could have done something else. And I think especially in the recent times where many people may have lost near and dear ones, I think this is also something that can really help us, because in the end, this is the truth. We all have to go, some sooner, some later. And when our work here is done, it's done, but when we are able to appreciate what we have, then it makes it much easier also to maybe accept what may no longer be there.
Acceptance, that's the word that you mentioned right at the end there. It's fascinating to me how you've, throughout the course of your life, accepted how things have come to you. At the beginning, you accepted well and truly well that you were not like the other kids. You had an inclination towards the spiritual life, so much so that you built a small shrine in your house and you meditated there every day.
You did your homework.
I tried my best. From then on, you accepted the fact that you were pursuing your baggy jeans, and then at some point the pursuit of the next thing is not worth it. And then from there you accepted becoming Swami Purnachaitanya. This acceptance that you have, this journey, right? Of course, the name was bestowed to you, the role, the job title, this is your purpose, was bestowed to you, and you accepted it throughout the way. It seems like you've done it seamlessly, easily, but for everybody else, this acceptance of the course of life is not the easiest. How do we do it better?
I think one important aspect here is that the very realization that acceptance is the easier path.
Wow.
Because many times we may feel that, oh, how can I accept, or why should I accept? But the truth is that things are the way they are. And even if you want to change that in the future, you have a much better chance at doing so when you come from a space of being composed and calm and in a space of acceptance. Because, say suddenly your whole life goes upside down, something that you really counted on may not happen. Maybe you were counting on getting a job or a promotion or getting married to someone, or whatever it may be. And then suddenly that doesn't happen. For whatever reason, it goes sideways, topsy-turvy. Then if we get into a state where we say, why is this happening? How can this happen? This shouldn't be happening to me. Why? And you can get angry at God and whoever you want, but until you stop questioning the present and accepting it, it becomes very, very difficult to move forward. Because you saying why this is happening, it shouldn't have happened, and think of all the possible things you maybe could have done to avoid it or change it, is not going to make any difference. And this is something that, yes, maybe I was very fortunate to have learned or realized. But I've seen this again and again, that the moment you're able to accept that, okay, this is what it is, and then move with that, it saves you a lot of time and trouble, and it allows you to keep moving and really progress. And I think the same way, we teach this also in some of our programs. It's one of the main principles in the art of living, that to be able to accept people and situations. Because if you say, oh, I cannot accept that this happened, or that person did this to me, why did they do that? They shouldn't have done it. But you not accepting them is not making any difference to them or the situation. Many times people may do something with a good intention, but the way we perceive it may be different, or it has another impact or another result. And sometimes you feel, oh, that person has something against me, and you lose your sleep over it, while that person may not even be aware. They may be sleeping very peacefully. So we need to understand that you accepting people or situations is something you do for yourself. And in the same way, you being able to accept what is happening right now will allow you to have a much more balanced approach, a much more clear outlook. And I think this is where you can say having a certain amount of faith, or this feeling that that I am not alone. That is, whether it is nature or God, or a spiritual master, or someone looking out for me, or there is a higher power that is also on my side, adds a big bonus, because it will allow you to sometimes take a step back and say, okay, maybe even though right now it doesn't feel like this is for the better. Because let's be honest,
Wow.
I'm sure even you, Sumedh, when growing up, when you were small, you had certain ideas or visions that I would like to become like this, or I would like to end up having that kind of job. Like, maybe someone, a child may see a big truck and they say, oh, I would love to become a truck driver. And you may have even...
Swamiji, I wanted to play cricket for India like every other boy. It just didn't happen.
Yeah, but cricket still, okay, that sounds quite nice still. But let's take this example of a truck driver. Now you see a nice truck, you say, I would like to become a truck driver. You may have really prayed to God. And then now growing up, many people would be so grateful that that wish didn't manifest. At the same time, in the same way, we may have at different points felt, I would really love to do this or be that or end up there. And you may have had to go through a breakup or lose someone, or face all kinds of difficulties that may have even seemed unsurmountable at that point. But when we look back in retrospect, for many people, they actually say, oh, but this was a very valuable lesson, or this is something that made way for me to do something even better, or to explore something that I had never even thought about. So
absolutely,
I think this also could help many people, that taking that moment to pause and look back at life, you will see that, one, you have gone through many difficulties that may have seemed so difficult at that point, but you came out okay. So that can give you a lot of strength the next time when we go through a roller coaster, or where we feel that things are, beyond our capacity to handle it, because you have done it so many times before, so you'll be okay. And at the same time, seeing that many things that may not have been what we wished or hoped at that point in life have actually given us an opportunity, or created a space or platform for us to do or experience something even better. So it can give us a kind of confidence or faith that even though we may not always see the bigger picture at that point, that doesn't mean it's not what is best for us, or
So profound. I think personally speaking as well, Swamiji, just to give you an insight, like I mentioned, like I always wanted to play cricket for India. I was and I continue to be an absolute fanatic about the game, but because I wasn't able to pursue cricket and I got injured and I had my surgeries, I was able to do the second best thing at that point, which I thought was the second best thing, which is to have a career in the media. Bring cricket and my ability to put the spoken word together and make a career out of it. And I feel if I had continued to pursue cricket, then there were no guarantees that I would have made it at the international level. But here I have reached a point when I have Swami Purnachaitanya on my podcast. So this is the best possible thing that could have happened to me, and it has happened out of a dream being squashed, if you look at it that way.
Yes. No, and if you see also the kind of, from what I have heard, the kind of, joy and not just entertainment, but also maybe insights and perspective that you have brought even through your reporting to millions of people, is something that just playing cricket you may not have been able to do, So, yeah, and who knows, this is something that you can do for so many more years.
Exactly.
Cricket, again, has its limitation.
It definitely does. I think just to talk about acceptance a little further, I feel, so speaking from a generational perspective, the hindrance or the obstacle to acceptance in a number of ways is the lack of quietening of the mind, where you constantly feel like you're in the face of trauma that has been buried over the years, of anguish that has been buried over the years. You continue to carry that with you, and then when you're in the face of trying to accept or in the pursuit of accepting a new development in your life, you're constantly faced by the trauma, by the disappointment that's come to you, and that hinders your acceptance or decision making in that moment. So do you begin by quietening the mind, and how do you do it?
I think again here it is, they both are together, because definitely when the mind is more quiet, it's easier to have a bigger perspective. When you're more centered, you have a much more balanced view of things. And many times not being able to accept is because we have a limited or a narrow understanding of the situation, or we're seeing only one point. It's like when you have an argument with someone, or you feel something is not fair, it's mainly because many times you see only your point of view, your perspective. You feel it's not fair to you, or how can that person do this, because you feel they've not seen what all you have been through or how much effort you have put. But then many times when you see the other side of the story, then you realize, oh, but now I can also understand why that person did what they did, or that doesn't always make it right. But even in the if we take the example of some people who commit crimes, I personally have conducted programs also in prisons, high security prisons. I've worked with people in the northeastern region, also in interiors, some of them who may be militants, and we have done a lot of work in those areas as well. And for me, many times it was such an eye-opener when you hear people's stories. Like, for example, you come to a village where there is no electricity. Now it may have reached, the government has done a lot of work, but no electricity, no school nearby, very limited facilities or resources. And then when people see, either on TV or through other media, they see that in other parts of the country and all over the world, people have access to so many things, but in a way they are deprived of certain opportunities. It's not that they don't want to work for it, but they have almost no scope. So then if someone comes and says, listen, look at your children, look at your house, look at where your life is going, this is not fair. Government is not going to do anything. You have seen it for the last so many decades. The only way to improve your situation is you have to fight for what is yours, for your right to these things. So many of these people who were part of some of these militant activities were such people who were actually just individuals who were so committed to their family, where they say, I'm ready to live a life which is even more difficult, because if like in the jungle without a roof over your head, just eating whatever you can find, it's not even the comfort of a simple home, so it's not easy. So to be able to do that requires a lot of commitment, a lot of determination, and a lot of purpose. So yes, they may have been misdirected, because someone telling, okay, you should pick up arms, it's not a solution, and that is where we would come in and guide them. And now some of these people are doing such commendable social service, where they have realized that this is not the right approach, and they have partnered with us to run a free school in their village, or they're working to teach people more sustainable ways of agriculture, or whatever it may be. But when you see their perspective, even if the result or the way they go about it may not be correct, it becomes so much easier to accept that, oh, there are people who do these things, because you realize that actually it makes a lot of sense if you look from their perspective. So I think definitely that centeredness, or that calm mind, again, awareness also helps a lot to accept. At the same time, acceptance brings great clarity and peace of mind. So it is both, because even if you want to meditate, if you want to go deep in meditation, at least for those few moments, you should be able to, well, I don't like the word should, but you will need to be able to accept things as they are right now, at least for some time. Otherwise, it's not, you can sit there and you want to meditate, but unless for a moment you drop this feeling that either something in the world is not right, or something in your life is not the way it should be, or whatever it may be, if there is some amount of unacceptance, mind will not quieten down, because that means there's a struggle. There's no peace. So for a moment, saying that, okay, yes, even though some things may not be the way I would like them to be, or I feel they should be, for the next 15-20 minutes, as if the world has disappeared, accepting everything the way it is, let things be the way they are. For a moment, let me just go inward. And that is when you can really meditate.
Looking inward, meditating to survive a changing world. Tell us more.
So this is the book I wrote, as you mentioned. I actually wrote it during the lockdown while I was in South Africa, because when the pandemic hit, I was traveling in Africa. And at some point, things went very quickly. Initially, Africa was not much affected. So we thought, okay, we can continue some of our activities there. But then suddenly things started shutting down. Travel restrictions kicked in also in Africa. India closed her borders overnight. So that made it difficult for me also to travel back. Europe was very bad at that point. So when I checked with my master, he also said that you be there in Africa. So I managed to quickly come to South Africa. We have a lot of contacts there. So a friend of mine very kindly agreed that I can use one of his apartments that he used to give for rent. He said, you stay there as long as you want. So you have a proper place to stay. You have your privacy. You can do your work. So I'm very grateful for that. And during this time, actually just before, I was approached by Penguin India because they had come across my profile. They knew about some of the work I'm doing. And then they said, it would be really nice if you could write a book that will help people to deal more effectively with the world that is so rapidly changing. So the moment I was about to start writing the book, the pandemic kicked in, which made it all the more relevant and all the more timely.
Absolutely.
So during the first few months of the lockdown, I wrote this book, and in it I've shared many of the things I have learned over the last 15-20 years of my journey, my personal practice, as well as teaching people about meditation, how to manage their mind, things I have learned from my master. So making it as accessible as possible. Again, like my master, a simple language where everybody can understand, but at the same time, making an effort to convey some of those really profound principles and truths that can make such a difference in the quality of our life. While the situations around us may be the same, but our outlook, our experience, and how to manage that, deal with that, handle that. So, it's a wonderful guide for people who would like to start learning to manage their mind or explore meditation, or also for those who have maybe been practicing but who would like to go a little deeper. There's a lot of tips and tricks, principles that allow us to meditate more effortlessly, and also to understand a little bit more about what meditation is, that how it is different from so-called mindfulness practices, because we're living in a time where meditation is going down the road that yoga has also gone in recent times, where it's becoming so popular that almost everybody knows about it. Many people may feel they know it or they have done it, while some may have actually really not yet had a proper experience because of the huge demand that is there. A lot of it is being rebranded, repackaged, and we have everything including goat yoga and beer yoga now. In the same way, there are many meditation apps that may only offer you a little bit of some nature sounds, and then just for 2 minutes you listen to that and you feel you have meditated, while no doubt it would have had a calming effect, but true meditation is so much more, and it would be a shame if people miss out on that.
So I think one of the things that you graciously agreed to do is to guide me through a mini meditation. That's something that I've been looking forward to since the moment we started talking. Since the moment I said, do you think this is a good idea? And you said, yes, we can do a mini meditation. I've been looking forward to these 7 to 8 minutes since then, and I'm really looking forward to it now as well. On your cue, Sumedh is ready whenever.
Lovely. So yes, yeah, we will call it a mini meditation, because in my book also I've warned people a little bit that, a proper meditation is more than just 2-3 minutes. But yes, let us have an experience, and I think it'd be a wonderful experience for the people at home also to get a glimpse
All yours.
of meditation. So let us start by closing our eyes, and you can sit comfortably and easily with the spine erect, but it's fine to have a back support. You can, for a moment, consciously relax your neck and your shoulders and relax your face, because these are places where we tend to accumulate a lot of tension. The hands can be relaxed, either on your knees or in your lap with the palms facing up. And you can keep a gentle smile on your face. And we'll start by taking a normal, gentle breath in and breathe out. Once more, breathe in and slowly breathe out through the mouth. And you may continue taking normal, gentle breaths. And let us become aware that the ingoing breath energizes the body, and the outgoing breath relaxes the body. Become aware of this phenomenon that is happening all the time. Once more, breathe in. And breathing out, relax your body more and more. Now become aware of the noises around you, whatever they may be. Maybe the sound of the birds outside, some traffic in the distance, a fan or air conditioning, or some people talking far away. Whatever noises may be there, do not resist them. Accept all the noises. For a moment, become aware of them, and then just let them be there. Let them come and go on their own. Once more, breathe in. And breathing out, relax more and more. Now become aware of your body. For the next few moments, keep your body totally still, immobile. like a statue. Even if you feel like moving some part of the body, resist. Just bear with it for the next few moments. Your body is totally still. The only thing that is moving is the breath, which is moving in and out of the body on its own, effortlessly. When the body is still, the mind also starts to settle down effortlessly. Allow the mind to settle down. And as the mind settles down more and more, become aware how it expands in all directions, becoming bigger and bigger. Allow the mind to expand until it fills the whole room that you are sitting in, and even beyond that. Whatever thoughts come up in the mind, do not resist. Whether good thoughts or bad thoughts, just let them come and go on their own. You are totally still, as if frozen in time. Breathe in. And breathe out. And slowly, once more, become aware of your body and the surroundings. If you wish, you can move your fingers a little. And then very slowly and gradually, taking your own time, whenever you feel complete, you may gradually open your eyes again. How was it?
I think I certainly forgot that I'm in a podcast recording for sure. Thank you. It's such an honor, Swamiji.
So
It is
I
such
know
an honor to be guided by you to meditate.
Yeah, it's always tempting to extend it, but I realize we have a limit of time. But it was a nice, I think, a nice chance for people to have a taste or a glimpse of meditation.
And meditate along with us as well.
Yes.
You know, I'm going to be asking them or urging them in the audio version to meditate with us as and when this section comes. So yes, they have a taste of, or they have a feeling of how it is to be guided by you. And it's such a beautiful practice, which in our everyday of moving and pursuing a life that we envision for us, to take a moment to sit down. I think it is almost an act of self-love.
Yes, it's like any sane, intelligent person knows that if you want to be more active, if you want to do more, you also need to take proper rest. Whether it is doing your work or even if it is just working out, building your body, you need to give the body rest as well. If you want it to do well and if you want to be able to do a lot. The same thing takes so much more time to finish. And when you're well rested and you're fresh, you can do it very quickly and much more successfully, much more properly. So in the same way, mentally, we need to take that little break in between if we want to be happy, if you want to be successful, if you want to be effective. Because our perception, observation, expression, our communication, everything gets affected. So in a time like ours, where we are exposed to so many impressions, life is very stressful, it is very challenging. We need to make sure that we spend a little time every day also looking inward. Because when your mind is fresh, proper meditation, 20 minutes of proper meditation gives your mind the same amount of rest as 4 to 6 hours of sleep. So this is something that we need to know, because otherwise, even after sleeping for 7-8 hours, you wake up, you don't feel really fresh. And and it's beautiful to see, how people like yourself also are making an effort to make people aware of the importance of these things, how we look at life, how to take care of our mental health, it inspires me also. I was talking to some of my friends and they have been telling me for long to start a podcast. So now around New Year, I'll also be starting a podcast. So I will maybe ask you for a few more tips. So
what stops us from practicing meditation? What is the hindrances that we've created for ourselves to meditate or to look inward?
Well, this is a question I should be asking because for me, I think most of it is just one, maybe the lack of proper guidance, because like I know many people who nowadays are realizing the importance, the need to meditate, but then where to start? That's why, like I said, even in my book, I made it a point to also spend time to make people aware, okay, what is meditation all about? Not that there is only one right way to do it, but at least that you'll be able to distinguish between, like I said, maybe a 2-minute app or, someone doing something in the yoga studio down the road, or something that can really give you all those benefits that we have heard or read about.
Yeah.
So in that way also, I hope that the book can also be a guide for people to help them get started. It gives them practical tips. Of course, we invite them to come and learn it from a proper teacher, because an in-person guidance is always invaluable if you want to really go deeper.
Yes.
But it's a nice way for people to start to begin their practice. But at the same time, apart from that, of maybe not knowing where to start or how to go about it, I think it is also the concept that it's something separate from our day-to-day life. People feel that somehow taking up these things requires you to either maybe change everything you like to do, maybe I have to change the way I eat, or I have to stop doing some of the things I love to do, or I have to leave home and go into the Himalayas, or grow a beard, or who knows. There are all kinds of concepts. So I think the more now people are realizing that it's very compatible. It doesn't allow you to change your whole lifestyle. Just like with yoga, nowadays people realize it's something that's compatible with almost anything. I think this is one more challenge. And one other main challenge is, I think, us not maybe yet having the clarity how important it is. Because for people to add any discipline to their life, it's all about priorities, right? So you have so many other things that you also think are important. And we do all those things because we think it gives us happiness, or it's important, or we have to take care of our social life, or whatever it may be. So the more we realize that this is something that a meditation practice can actually enhance all these other aspects of our life, it makes you more effective, it makes you more committed, your empathy increases, everything. Then it helps us to free up some time for that. Because in the end, if you see, we do so many things because we want to be happy. But as we discussed at the beginning, if our mind is disturbed, whether you're sitting and watching a movie or having good food, you can't really enjoy it. And just like we've learned that brushing our teeth is important, like initially we never felt the need, but then your mom or your dad or someone else would keep telling you, making you do it, doing it for you. But along the way somewhere we understood that yes, this is important. If I want to keep my teeth healthy and clean, if I want to avoid pain or discomfort or other things in the future, I need to take out that little time. And that is why every day we do it. I mean, I hope people do, it's recommended. But even if you're in a hurry, you're going for an important meeting, you don't say, oh, I didn't have time to brush my teeth. No, we make time. So in the same way, once my master very nicely said, he said, no, people have understood the importance of dental health, but now we also need to understand the importance of mental health. So in the same way, taking out some time every day to meditate is like a shower or a bath for the mind. And considering all the stresses and strains that it undergoes and the amount of impressions that we have to digest on a daily basis, I think nowadays it's not a luxury anymore, it's a necessity. We need to take out a little time every day, and it will drastically increase how effective we are, how much you're able to enjoy things. So that way, it's a good investment. You earn it back easily.
Something you shared on your Instagram very recently comes to mind. You said, relax into the effort. Even though the body might be putting in the effort, there is no struggle in the mind. there's no resistance. And after that, once you relax into the bodily effort to get into that position, to take that initiative and make it happen, then you relax in that effort, and then your expansion happens, right?
Yes, and it saves a lot of energy, because most of the time our energy is spent because of all the worries and stresses and resistance in the mind. It's not so much the physical effort. Most of us are not doing hardcore physical labor. So this is one place where we can save a lot of energy, and we can really increase the quality of life.
Surviving a changing world, one act of kindness at a time, and one meditation at a time. Simple as that, isn't it?
It'll make a big difference.
It'll make a big difference. Just like you are, Swamiji, in all honesty, you're bringing such value to people via your services, your publications, your work in the media, your appearances like this. So gracious with your time, so thoughtful with your words, and so clear about the impact you want to make in the world. It comes through very, very wonderfully in each and every word that you choose, and to be guided by you and to meditate today was one of the most enriching experiences I've had. So from the bottom of my heart, with all the gratitude, thank you so very much for coming on the show. I really, really appreciate it.
So kind of you, Sumedh, and it was truly a pleasure. And I wish you all the best with this wonderful initiative, and I look forward to spend more time in the years to come.
Very much so. That would be my honor entirely. Very much so. Ladies and gents, Swami Purnachaitanya ji, truly embodying the name that's bestowed upon him right here on the podcast.